Well, joining me now live in our Lagos studio to discuss the major challenge with LPG utilization, inconsistent availability, and also the gas price template, I have with me Sunday Ogoride, the Vice President, Western Zone, Nigerian Association of Liquefied Petroleum Gas Marketers Association. Good to have you on the breakfast show this morning.
Good morning, Nigeria.
And I also have with me on my left-hand side, Basi Essien as well, the Executive Secretary of the Association. Good to see you today as well. Let's start off with you now, Mr. Ogoride, looking at the fact that the pricing of gas is really the front burner across board. We have different pricing templates across different states, and the issue is just baffling, looking at the fact that we have a whole lot of gas reserves and we shouldn't even be talking about the high cost of gas, really.
Yeah, it's of concern to everyone, but there are some basic issues that we need to understand. The first is that a big chunk of the gas that we use here is imported. And because of the high exchange rate, it has affected the price at which the end user gets his gas. If we were to have full domestication of gas, all the charges that are associated with freight, with getting foreign exchange will be saved, and that would definitely bring the price of gas downwards. Secondly, the issue presently is that demand and supply affects the price of goods, because sometimes the products are not readily available. Whatever is available, those who have it want to maximize profit on it, and they increase price at will. Except we have a situation where we can have regular and uninterrupted supply. That will make competition to be very, very key, and price will fall naturally.
And talking about price falling in natural level, let's talk about how we stabilize or sanitize the market, Mr. Essien.
We see the issue here is we are actually looking at a situation that the market should be awash with the product. Because if we have, right now our consumption is about 1.2 million metric tons, and the LNG supply is about 450,000 metric tons. The differential comes from importation. So if we have a situation that if all the local producers of gas are being mandated by the government to domicile every molecule they produce in the domestic market, we'll have a system where the system will be awash with the product, and definitely because of price different competition, definitely prices will come down, and we'll have a sustainability of the supply.
So Ogoride, also looking at the fact that government is also trying to intensify its effort towards the transition, or looking at the move away from other cooking energy sources to looking at liquefied petroleum gas. The benefits really are there, but we still have a situation of a perception of safety and a whole lot of information that has to be clarified really on the part of the consumers.
The truth is that every business has what we can call safety precautions that are associated with it. Somebody flying an airplane has some guidelines to follow. Anybody using gas also must know that there are guidelines to follow, either in the siting of the plants, even in the usage at home, except people are properly educated. The administration is doing a lot in this regard. We do a lot of education to sensitize people and make them know how to correctly use gas. Again, government needs to step in, because you can see now there are categories of plants. Those that are licensed by government to operate, all those ones go through the rigors of ensuring that every every plan of government to ensure safety is adhered to very strictly. But there are those who operate what we call illegal plants.
I like the fact, if I may button here, I like the fact that you made mention of the siting of these plants. Now, at the end of the day, irrespective of where these licenses come from, there is an oversight function which ought to checkmate the slightest loophole. So it's inexcusable to have plants that are not properly licensed operate, don't you think? To limit the casualties we have on ground, because we've had situations of casualties that are irredeemable, so to speak.
I agree with you that licenses, when they, plants when they are licensed, they will be able to operate safely. But the truth today is that there are so many plants that do not have government approval to operate, and they are operating.
What fuels this?
I think it is because people feel that is the in thing now. People are running away from kerosene. Gas is the in thing. Everybody wants to get involved without going through the necessary prerequisites, learning the trade, knowing the safety precautions to put in, and apparently government does not have the maybe enough manpower to be able to police, because you see a lot of illegal plants that are not licensed. They just wake up one day and they start doing the business, and this is very, very dangerous.
Mr. Ogoride, do you understand the gravity of what we are speaking right now, and the fact that there is no excuse citing that government cannot do its oversight function is an excuse that ought not to be bought into?
Okay, I agree, but government will still work within the limits of the resources.
How then do we now
have.
intensify oversight functions?
That is why my association is liaising with government agencies. We are doing a very good job with Lagos State government, for instance. We have committees that we work together. We look at issues. We preempt accidents by looking at the whole business holistically, suggesting ways and measures by which all these potential accidents can be avoided. And if every government will do that, and if they also develop the manpower that will be able to checkmate, especially those ones that are not licensed, those ones who just go into the business for the purpose of making money alone without considering the safety of life and property, I think by that time they'll be able to clamp down on such illegal facilities, and only those that are licensed, those who know, those who have learned the ropes, those who have the approval to operate will be able to operate, and the level of accidents will reduce drastically.
Do you think we can do anything more in terms of punitive measures?
Yes, we can, if government first and foremost will ensure that they keep to the rules. For instance, a plant that does not have a DPR license is not supposed to operate. If they see anyone that operates illegally, if they make very strong punitive measures against such, maybe others will learn from it, and safety will be assured in the industry.
Mr. Bassieson, let me bring you in here now. The government has already declared 2020 to 2030 the decade of gas. That's a 10-year plan, and then we're already in year 2 already. Do you think we are intensifying as much effort? And then how do you see the association also deepening the engagement we have with government to ensure that we have increased consumption of gas, but the price still beats down to the barest minimum to encourage usage?
We're actually happy that the government, apart from making the 2020 the year of gas, has gone ahead to declare 2020 to 2030 decade of gas, and every effort is now focused on using gas to drive the economy. There are some marginal fields that are coming up and are cheap in the process of producing gas. The MPDC in Ologbotu, the same thing. So we believe that when all these ones put together, they'll be able to meet, when they are able to meet our local consumption and bridge sustainability of gas. Once the availability is sustained, we know that there will be competition amongst the players, and definitely this will dovetail into a price stabilization.
Do you also side with the sentiment Mr. Bassieson just shared right now, looking at the fact that you allow market forces to rule and then you look at price stabilization, but at the end of the day, we still have the same old attempt to infrastructure? We've seen what happens with oil. Do you think the same tendencies would also limit the sort of success rate we would have with our gas reserves and then deepening gas penetration in the country?
I think I agree with him to a large extent that if all the gas that is produced locally can be, especially from marginal fields, can be added to whatever LNG supplies, then gas will be in abundant supply. And once gas is in abundant supply, it means nobody will be able to hike his own price, because the moment you do that, people will run away from you and get it from a cheaper source. So that will stabilize price and it will make it readily available. However, the infrastructural deficiency must must urgently be addressed. For instance, if like an LNG will want to bring gas, there are no baby vessels to bring them as regularly as they should, and that creates a gap. That gap leads to small shortages which have to be augmented with importation. Before this happens, then the price goes up. So if there is continuous supply, continuous flow of gas into the market, then prices will stabilize, because nobody will panic that I may run out of stock, and whatever you have, you want to sell it as quickly as possible, since supply is not an issue.
What forecast do you also see in terms of transportation of gas, really? We're wrapping up our conversation at this point in time. Wrapping up your thoughts in about 30 seconds.
The what?
What new forecast do you see in terms of how we transport gas and then getting this commodity to the different sites of usage?
You see, because the usage level is increasing drastically, within the next few years, I can see us doing double what we are doing presently, which means we need infrastructures in transportation to be able to cope with that. And we need to plan ahead to be able to do this. Not only just getting trucks, but getting those that meet the standard. Except we get those that meet the standard, we might be increasing in terms of usage, but we'll be causing a lot of havoc through accidents. And that is something we should work against. That is something we should guide against.
Well, we'll continue to look out for the conversation that the Nigerian Association of Liquefied Petroleum Gas Marketers will be bringing to the table. Really, it's a new dawn as we look at also increased penetration of gas. We would have to get things right. Excuses are not enough. Thank you very much for your time on the breakfast show this morning, Mr. Sunday Oguride. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Mr. Basi, thank you very much for your time on the show.
Thank you, Dave.